is a scary story. Howdy everyone, I have a question, do you have an answer? What were the scariest moments in history and why? Surely, if we'd had the opportunity to observe the birth of our planet from afar, it could have been one of the most frightening and fascinating moments in our history at the same time. It was only the beginning. The history of humanity is very closely connected with fear. Fear, that primitive and vital response to physical and emotional danger that has been pivotal to humanity throughout our evolution. But also sometimes we are really fascinated by fear and we enjoy feeling a shiver down our spines. Why? When we are scared, our bodies release dopamine, but also endorphins, serotonin, and oxytocin. Basically, a cocktail that ignites our primordial instinct, breaks down the barriers that society imposes on us every day, and opens the door to an experience that awakens us from the apathy of everyday life. For this, we love horror movies, or haunted houses, or abandoned buildings. But what happens when we are not in control of the situation? When the fear is generated by something beyond our reach? In that case, the fear turns into panic, which often causes wild, spontaneous behavior. That bunny will bring the rest of the fear to you today. Enjoy!
One of the scariest moments on Earth was when the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted, which happened 2.1 million years ago. The largest of these eruptions was the oldest one, which created a volcanic formation known as the Huckleberry Ridge Tuff. It released a whopping 585 cubic miles of molten rock and created a caldera measuring some 60 miles across. That makes it one of the 5 largest individual volcanic events in history. Just to get an idea, nearly 6,000 times larger than the Mount St. Helens eruption of 1980. Of course, the assassination of Abraham Lincoln was one of the most terrifying events in American history that radically changed it. But there's an even more daunting and terrifying story connected with this tragic murder. That night, Clara Harris and her fiancé Major Henry Rathbone were sitting next to President Lincoln and First Lady Mary Lincoln when John Wilkes Booth fatally shot the president at Ford's Theater. Trying to apprehend the assassin, Rathbone grabbed Booth's arm, but Booth stabbed him. With the bloody dagger still in hand, Booth escaped. 2 years later, in July 1867, Harris and Rathbone tied the knot. In popular culture, Clara is remembered as the woman that wasn't able to part with her blood-stained dress. Clara had preserved it behind a walled-off closet. She believed it might summon Lincoln's ghost. Spirits talked to Rathbone too. Guilt-driven for not stopping the tragedy, Rathbone heard voices in the walls. They blamed him for Lincoln's death and ordered him to avenge the fallen president. The real ghosts were in Rathbone's head throughout his life, and fueled by reporters who for years repeatedly interviewed him about the president's death. He suffered from depression and guilt for not being able to prevent the murder of President Lincoln. Rathbone's mental instability worsened over the years, and on December 23, 1883, Henry Rathbone attacked his family in a fit of madness. He fatally shot his wife in the head and then attempted to kill the children, but a groundskeeper prevented him from doing so. Rathbone then stabbed himself 5 times in the chest in an attempted suicide. Blaming his crime on an intruder, Rathbone was charged with murder and declared insane by doctors. He was convicted and committed to an asylum where he died on August 14, 1911. 2016 was the year that will go down in history as the year in which an epidemic of clown sightings spread across America and forever changed our perception of clowns. A lot of people that year gave reports as evil clowns were seen in incongruous settings, such as near forests and schools. The sightings were first reported in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in what turned out to be a marketing stunt for a horror film. The phenomenon later spread to many other cities in the US, Canada, and later on to other countries. The world seemed almost wrapped up in the pages of Stephen King's It. Some psychiatrists have defined this phenomenon as a magic combination of childhood fears and social media. The clown hysteria seems to revolve around two nightmare scenarios. The first one is that a group of people dressed as clowns are preying on children. The second is that evil clowns, who seem to represent either people dressed as clowns or professionals who make it their job to dress as scary clowns, are somehow straying outside their professional purview and creepily wandering the streets. But there's no evidence anywhere that either of these scenarios is actually occurring. There's also no evidence that a ring of people dressed as clowns are preying on children. There's no evidence that evil clowns exist and are currently taking to the streets. What was really scary, much more than the clowns, was the reaction of people with weapons who were ready to kill anyone dressed as a clown. A 16-year-old boy who carried out a killer clown prank in Berlin was stabbed by a 14-year-old friend who did not recognize him. But in September this year, 2020, the year that many have renamed as a dystopian nightmare, clowns are back. According to Yahoo, TikTok user Dilly Illy, whose name is Ileana Navarro, shared a video of herself driving down a dark road when she came across a person in a clown costume. Quote, "They weren't lying when they said clowns are coming back in 2020, she wrote in her post. 2020 isn't my year, apparently. 2020 probably isn't the year for a lot of people, so we remain united in fear and ready for another scary moment in history, perhaps this one related to Jameson Irish whiskey. While on an expedition to Africa during the late 19th century, James Jameson, heir to the Jameson Irish whiskey empire, reportedly wanted to witness cannibalism in action. In order to make his horrifying desire a reality, he purchased a slave girl and handed her over to men who murdered her and feasted on her flesh. Jameson is said to have sketched out the gruesome scene, later turning his rough illustrations into a series of watercolors. Other scary moments that nobody can forget are September 11th, the assassination of Kennedy, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., the Iraq War, and of course, the Spanish flu in 1918, and many more. Today we are witnesses of another scary moment in history, the fly on Pence's head during the vice presidential debate. That episode was so scary that Stephen King, the master of horror, did not miss the opportunity to comment with a tweet. The Lord of the Flies, starring Mike Pence, coming soon to a streaming platform near you. What does it mean? The Lord of the Flies is a literary legend. In William Golding's novel, it's a metaphor for evil, and it takes the shape of a severed and bloody pig head that a group of stranded boys mount on a stick and offer up to the beast. Flies, of course, swarm around it. If you haven't read it yet, now you have a great reason to read it. So, if you really want to be scared, don't miss the opportunity to leave a comment now. The reply could be so chilling as to leave you petrified, like after seeing Medusa's face. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more strange new stories told by an alien and her imaginary friend, a pair that otherwise can't be found anywhere. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can find the link in the description as well as our store. In our store, you can get an exclusive Halloween-themed t-shirt, sticker, and mug. And of course, stay safe with a MyStoryYourStory mask.
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't, press thumbs down twice, just to be sure. Take it easy. Peace. Oh, by the way, I'm an alien. But not that kind of alien.
Spit mouth.
Ghost fart.